What's going on, guys? Joe here with Total Justice Gaming, back with what may be one of the first deck profiles for Battle Spirit Saga. So, brain already firing in all cylinders after doing the white card roundup. I found my Q Spirit. As you can see here, it's Turbo Rex. I've already kind of worked out a deck. I tried to build the best I can with Tabletop Simulator. I'm going to need to find a tutorial on that. That way I can play this out a little more. What little I could work with Tabletop Simulator, this seemed to work out real well. I really enjoyed this first draft. This is a first draft deck, guys. Like, we're gold fishing and seeing if what I worked with worked. It did. There's always room for improvement. Let's run everything down. So for our ones, we are going both with the free units. As I said earlier, free units are the best type of units we can play in the early game because they help us get our reduction online. So we're running 4 copies of Automatic Gunner. Free unit, 1 difficulty with 1 reduction. No abilities, decent blocking power. Then we're running Mecha Wing Duck, 1 cost, 1 reduction. Again, free unit. This one's got the skill of during the opponent's attack step, whenever a spirit is returned to their hand or deck, place a core from the void onto the spirit. This is how, if we get this unit out, not only are we getting reduction, we're getting core acceleration, because if we can drop this mid-game around the time we want to drop Turbo Rex, we can start racking up a lot of cores, especially with some of the stuff in the 4-costed or 5-costed units. We start actively bouncing stuff back to hand. We rake in a lot of cores, and then we get this guy killed. All those cores go to the trash. Then at the start of the refresh step, all that trash goes to the reserve, and we're banking a ton of cores. He is low power, but the reason is he is going to be our sacrificial lamb, sacrificial duck, and free units, guys. Free units are going to make the world go round in this game. Next up, we are skipping the level 2s. There were not that great of level 2s, so we went right to level 3s, because a lot of our level 3s reduced to 2-cost units. So we're running 4 copy of Steam Otter, Machine Beast, 3 difficulty, 1 reduction, meaning you only cost 2. So for 4 cores, we get a 3K unit that becomes a 7K unit anytime he blocks. This is indispensable. He is our early game guarder, because even in the early game, even if we're just sitting at a couple cores, he is still extremely aggressive because he gets such a huge power bump right off the bat. They are going to have to waste the majority of the resources early game, or just going to block their bigger attackers in the early game, and they're going to die and we're going to live. We're running 2 copies of Heavy Tank Curiosity. We do run, I want to say, 12 to 15, maybe 18 out of the 35 spirits are running in this deck. This keeps us safe. So 2 cost of 3, reduction in 2, brings us down to a 1. Very easily to be put into the game early game. A Nexus, 2 of our free units. We just talked about that on our ones. Being able to get them to level 2, not that hard. If we can get the reduction down as quickly as we can, we're only looking at spending 3 cores to get this dude out, and with the skill online, that can protect our machine gunner, that can protect himself. And going forward, he can even be a late game drop, because we do run mecha a little bit later as the curve goes on. The earlier part and late game is Machine Beast, because it's a Machine Beast focused deck. But around the mid game is where we drop the majority of our mechs. So the mecha being able to prevent any sort of destruction effect from our mech is why we're running him too, mostly because he's a utility. Next up, we're running 3 copies of Pegacyclone. Difficulty 3, reduction of 1, meaning we can go to 2. I talked about this in the roundup. He can sit at level 2 and be fine. because he just sits there. We already have armor for red and purple, meaning we're golden there, meaning all we got to do is worry about opposing white decks and yellow decks. Yellow decks will probably give us the biggest trouble because we don't have enough armor against them. His second ability is during the opponent's attack step, if this spirit has a soul core, it can block the opponent's spirits with a cost of 2 or fewer cores on them, even if exhausted. So we're going to leave him at the 2. We already got stuff that can set up, make him bigger. If we want to invest in him more to make him a 7K, that's absolutely fine. It's going to make the guy's spirits with a cost of 2 or fewer just drive into him and then just die instantly. So he is our continuous blocker if we want to keep going. Being able to guard against red spells and purple spells, terrifying, and is probably our secondary if we can't get Otter. Pegacyclone is probably our better bet, especially depending on what color we're going against. Definitely be dropping Pegacyclone against a red or a purple deck, but if it's white or yellow, just drop Otter. Otter makes up better numbers for less core investment. And right now, we aren't really looking to use the Soul Core too much, so the Soul Core can sit on Pegacyclone. Moving on over to our 4s. We are looking at 3 copies of Grey Grimmer for the same reasons as Pegacyclone. He's our primary unit. He's guard against red and white, and much like Otter, when he blocks at level 2 or level 3, he gains a 3k bonus. Again, powering up is what's going to make it to where they're going to waste their attacks and get themselves killed because our math is going to be stronger than their math. Especially red and white. Again, we're still weak to opposing white decks. We're still weak to opposing yellow. We don't have that much we can do against them, which is why we added the 2 other utility cards in the deck. Valkyrie Mist, this is only to be played when they try to drop their key spirit, which is going to be usually their 7-costers or sometimes their 8-costers. So like opposing Dynadolls or the Terra Sword deck runs pretty beefy thing. Opposing Big Beats Machine Beast is also a deck that's terrifying, which we will probably look at another profile down the road. That is for why we're only keeping that. We're not actively going to play Valkyrie Mist. We're waiting for them to drop their key spirit. Let them do what they can with it, try to survive that turn, then drop Valkyrie Mist, make them have to pick it back up and summon it all over again, meaning it sets them back a whole turn because then they got to go back out and play their big card. Having Gut Knight Heavy Barrel, he is there to die. Like, he is there to die. He is another utility card because he's a kamikaze unit. When he's destroyed, you can select a spirit with a 1 summon effect and return to the hand. 1 summon effects are pretty nasty. They can get power-ups. They can do opposing return effects, opposing bounce effect, destruction effects. While they are only good for that turn, then they just become a body, and this lets us eliminate that body so we can swing into an exhausted unit, kill it, and then bounce the secondary unit back. He's utility much like Valkyrie Mist. Our main ride is Grimgar because he gets the power bonus and he's got the armor. More things, we're going on to level 5s, or the 5 difficulties. Both of them have decent reduction. Buster Fenrir can come in at a 3. Again, he can sit at his level 2 power bonus or power level because he still triggers at that one. He is mass control, return all opposing spirits with a cost of 2 or fewer back to hand whenever the spirit blocks. If we combine him with Megaduck and they are trying to run a Weenie Rush when he blocks, we wipe their board and we get a ridiculous amount of cores on Megaduck. Like, those two are a very good combination together, just for the way how they synergize. I'm running 2 copies of God Knight Odin type X, 10, or Cross. Still don't know which one that is. We're going to sit him at his level 2 power unless we really want to invest in him. because of his ability. Because, we get to refresh this. If we control White Nexus, we can refresh it during the opponent's attack set, meaning we can swing and block with him. And then his level 2 and level 3 skill is when he swings or blocks, we can bounce a unit back to their hand, meaning we screw up either their attack sequence or their block sequence. Again, he's a utility card. The better card here is Fenrir because of how well he synergizes with stuff like Mecha Duck, or just the fact that he makes a full board sweep of any of the lower tier units. Because if they don't have their spam out for reduction, it's going to slow them down. Next up, we're looking at our X-Rares. Now, my key spirit and my favorite of the X-Rares for white is Dinosaur Hero Turbo Rex. He just does a lot for very little. He is more heavily costed. So we have him coming in at 6 difficulty. We can reduce it down to 3 because of his reduction. We do have to pop a unit with a cost of 3 or more back to the hand, and all of those cards go back to reserve. That's actually okay because that means we can get him to higher levels easier by moving those cards off of a grade 3. We really don't need anymore. Grade 3, grade 4, we don't really need anymore. And then we can stack him on him, making him an 8K, maybe a 9K. We also have his abilities, which are nuts. Being able to select force an attack, meaning we screw their number and attack sequence up. We screw their math up. We force that attack into them, and then we just let Turbo Rex just like, all right, you're up to eat. I'm eating you. And then whenever it's our turn to attack with him, we just turn anything back to the hand. It doesn't matter. If they don't have a send, they're going back to the hand. And they got to waste resources. You combine this, but drop this, then drop Valkyrie Mist while they have their X-Rare out, something like an opposing Derm Dyna, and then have Megarex swing. Okay, well, that's 2 units back to the hand that they got to like set back out. That's amazing. Now, alternatively, our alternate kill condition is Derm Dyna. If you notice, we don't really use the Soul Core a lot in this deck. We use it on Pegacyclone and we use it on Derm Dyna. The reason is I want this to be like a beginning deck for a lot of people. That way they can test it out, have something to work for and work towards, and not having to manage the Soul Core as much, I think helps out new players. Also because while this is mecha, and the majority of the deck is revolving around Machine Beast, his first ability does not dictate it needs to be a mecha, which is why it's so good. So when we swing, we can pay the Soul Core on him. Select any of our white spirits for each Nexus the opponent, both of us control. The number of my Nexuses and the amount of the opponent's Nexuses. If we can get, let's say, 3 spirits on top of him that can't be blocked, they have to either flash timing you and knock your spirits out via destruction abilities, which more than likely in this deck, the smart thing to do is target those with armor. They have to either do destruction abilities or they have to do return abilities via spells. And even then, if you're targeting the ones with armor, it's a free hit. So if you can rack up some decent armor guys, like a turn ahead of dropping Derm Dyna, then pay his Soul Core, which is going to be very easy in this deck. You just swing and you win. That's all this is. His level 2, level 3 ability, it can be okay. When it's destroyed, we can bleed a core off and it stays on the field. Keep it on their field refreshed. So, I mean, that lets us be able to swing. They use an ability. We bleed a core off. We refresh it. We try again. If they block it, they manage to beat out a battle power. We go for the block. It doesn't deal any damage. We bleed a core off, refresh it. we can block it again. Really decent effect. He's our alternate game winner. I would think by the time Turbo Rex is out, if we are playing the deck right, we should be able to just roll on over them and make it to where they barely have anything to block with by all the bounce effects we're using, and force them to make the bad choices by forcing attacks into us and by bouncing stuff back to the hand to where they just can't block. Now, we're only running 2 Nexuses in this deck. We're running 3 copies of Rocket City because anytime we block, we gain 1,000 BP. That's fantastic. The reason we're running this is the second skill. Whenever the opponent draws outside of the draw step, they got to discard. You get 1 in hand. They don't gain. They get a 1-for-1. So they don't get anything on their additional. They don't get a +1. We get 2 of these out. Now, keep in mind, this is very cheap, too, because we're at a 3 with a reduction cost 1. This is a Nexus for 2. Ideally, this is something you want to get out as soon as possible. So back to what I was saying. If we get 2 of these out, they're negging themselves every time they get the additional draw, because then both of them proc. So whenever your opponent draws a card, they discard one card from Rocket City, they discard a second card from Rocket City. God help them if you get all 3 out somehow. Then they got to start doing focus on Nexus destruction, because you're going to bleed their hand out, because every time they draw, they got to pitch 2. And that's terrifying in this game. Like, you got to have cards in your hand in this game. Like, I can't stress that enough. Battle Spirits, Connected Battlers taught me you got to have cards in hand. Moving on over, our other Nexus, we're running this as a 2-of. Infinity Mothership. During the opponent's attack step, at the start of the attack step, place all cores from your trash to your reserve. So we spend stuff on spells. We do other things that move cores to the trash. All go to the reserve, meaning we have a fresh reserve of cores that we can dump into spell casting. This is important. The secondary ability is if you control a Mecha Spirit, gain 2 cores during your core step instead of 1. We can kind of focus on that because we have enough mechs to where that will support it. So if we have Machine Gunner in the opening the game and we set this down, we start gaining core acceleration there. We get core acceleration via the unit that says, hey, units can't be destroyed. They can only be exhausted via destruction effects. So we can build a decent amount of cores pretty quickly via this. But the most devastating out of the 2 Nexuses that we're going to run is Rocket City. For Magics, we're running, of course, 4 copies of Absolute Ice Shield, Burst Wall, whatever we're going to be calling it. We're running 4 copies of that. I don't think I need to go too heavily into why that is. Running 2 copies of Regain because this is a 1-costed spell if we get our reductions down that says refresh one of your spirits says not currently attacking and refresh it. This can be played, since it's flash timing, this can be played on the opponent's attack step. Hey, we're not attacking and we can block again. Or we can play this on our attack and force a core loss of the opponent by saying swing with another thing, response, flash timing, cast Regain. Swing with something that we know is going to be get through, maybe a unit with armor. Swing again. We're running 2 copies of Counter Sword. I am running this in there because it is a 2-costed burst thing. I like the fact that we can use the main skill during this. Why I sound less enthused is because we have to let a spirit's when summon effect resolve before we can actually use the burst skill. And that could leave us in a precarious situation if we let something resolve. We do get to bounce something back to the hand, and we do get to use its main magic skill on the opponent's turn, which puts a core from the void to life, which is good. Very good. But again, I am using this because in early game, Maybe mid game this will be better, but late game this is probably going to cost us because when summon effects are usually pretty strong. So I put that at 2 of. We're also running 2 copies of Dream Bomb. Dream Bomb is a little bit easier to set off. We get to set this burst off when we lose a life. We get Nexus control, which is very important in this game. And even more important going forward. And then its main effect is a main or flash timing effect, which will cost us 3 because it's only 2 reduction on a 5 difficulty. We can do select one of your opponent's spirits and return in. We do that anyways in the deck on a normal basis. So being able to do it more is good. For 3 cores, that's not too bad. For this one, we're mostly using it for the burst ability than Counter Sword. Counter Sword, we're looking to do the whole thing. Burst Wall, I don't even need to say what we're doing it for. Regain looks pretty, is just overall just a good spell. Just a good magic card. Our sideboard. I am running sideboard. We get 10 cards, I believe. So of the 10 cards, we're running 2 copies of Mark II Iron Ice Maiden. The reason for that is it has armor against yellow. We don't have any protection against yellow. We come up against a yellow deck. It's going to be a tough battle. I think we can persevere. I think we can win. But this just ensures that we can push through damage because Ice Maiden is guarded from all their effects. We're running 3 copies of Phonotech Elk. So we're going to, if we have to sideboard into him, we're going to drop Dern Dyna and run 3 Turbo Rexes and 3 Elk. Elk just has really good abilities. I just believe Turbo Rex has the better ability, and Dern Dyna has the ability to just close out games, which is why those are in the main deck and Elk is in the side deck. This is not to take away from Elk's ability. I just feel those 2 extras are better than this. To accompany Elk, because our X-Rares are more focused on Machine Beast rather than a split of Machine Beast and Mecha, we're running 3 copies of Newman City. We're going to be dropping the Mecha Fortress and running Rocket City at a 2 of, and then putting Newman City at a 3 of. This lets us power up our spirits and lets us get reduction much, much quicker. Because if you summon a Machine Beast with a cost of 6 or more, this Nexus counts as 3 white reduction symbols as opposed to just 1. Following it out, we're running 2 copies of Holy Elixir. We are going to be replacing, what was it called? Counter Sword with Dream Elixir. I still am kind of 50-50 on this, in all honesty. We can bounce up Dream Bomb and lower Counter Sword, or we can just replace Dream Bomb with Holy Elixir. It just depends on what you really want to do with it. So again, this we can only burst this when a resolved spirits when summon effect finishes, which kind of sucks, which is why we may replace this with Counter Sword. We waste 2 cores from the void into your trash, so core acceleration. Then we can turn right around and possibly use those cores to flash like 2 of our spirits and refresh them. Spirits refreshed by this effect cannot attack during this turn. That's fine because what we're going to be doing is we are going to be refreshing them during the block step. Also, we can just use this for the flash timing. This is a 3-costed spell in the grand scheme of things because I think we'll always have at least 1 reduction online. So being able to play the flash timing and refresh spirits to block again really, really will come in handy. And guys, that's the deck. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go back into the deck building lab at some point next week and see what else I can build. I am really enjoying being able to build again and play a little bit. I wish I could do a bit better testing. I really got to get better at tabletop gaming, tabletop simulator. So, guys, please, again, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the little chat things. If you guys see something I don't, please let me know. I want to learn. I want to be a better builder, better summoner. And I will see you guys next time.